episode is the second in a larger podcast that I did with Michael Burnz. Last week, we dropped the first part of it because Mike and I dived into a really heart to heart, deep show experience. And this next section, we had to break into two pieces because it was just really, really so fire. And Mike and I get into conversations in regard to growth and personal development and how nothing actually changes unless you change. And we really went into the conversation about, what's at the core of why we're doing things. And Mike talked about what challenges made him into the man that he is today, and what great things made him into the man that he is today, and how he succeeded. We go into quantum physics in terms of frequencies, and it's really a really cool in-depth conversation with Michael Burnz, who is a super successful man, but he just drops fire in this second part, and we wanted to give it the just attention that it deserved. So we broke it into two, and I hope you enjoy it. Really, just sit back. You're gonna be reminded of, or educated in, or enlightened to really dive deeper into your own life and into your own levels of success. So without any further ado, I look forward to the second part with Michael Burnz.
You know what I think is incredible? When you're saying the foundations are built to be able to withstand catastrophic events, but it's almost like the catastrophic events build the foundation for anything that's to come, and each, right? So like that sudden shock of losing your wife and best friend and all of that, that's building that unbelievable thing, right? But you can hear the progression in your life. Do you see that being in your marriage, or being the successful guy that you are, like with all of the stuff that you have, do you see part of it, these events shifting your whole identity, like even the part of you that was the identity as a husband, or the successful dude, the lifestyle guy? Like, do you see the shift in a new identity right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you were to put me up against the guy that I was a year ago, it's not even not. I would eat his lunch, like physically,
What's the difference?
spiritually, emotionally. So it's my buddy, one of my best friends named Tyler, who I do. He shares he has an office at my office, and we talk a lot, and we're kind of on this spiritual journey of self-development together, like truly self with yourself, and we have conversations daily. And it's really helped me out a tremendous amount. So again, the relationships and the people that you're around are a big part of the whole equation. So really look at that. But he asked me a couple weeks ago, probably a month ago, he said, dude, if you didn't have all of the things happen this last year that have happened with the divorce and the market and just all of the drama and ins and outs involved with both of those things, because it's been intense and extreme, he's like, do you think that you'd be where you are with your spirituality and your growth? And I was like, there's no way. There's zero way. If I were to have just kept going in comfort and easy, even though I'm working on myself, I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am right now. And I'm happy, the happiest I've been right now. Like, I'm sad and there's things that are hard and challenging, but the relationship that I have with me, I'm the best that I've been, and I'm showing up the best that I ever have, and for me first, but then as a result, I'm a better leader. I'm a better, person to be in relationship with, whatever that looks like, business, personal, whatever. And I know that, and I've seen that. And then again, it's because winning, when you're winning is easy, but like when you're losing, that's when, and you have a setback or adversity, that's when you get kind of stopped in your tracks a little bit, and you got to reevaluate. But when you're doing self-development and you're doing the work, you think you're getting better, and you think you're developing skills, and you think you're mastering yourself and having new thoughts and perspectives and stuff, but you don't truly know until you have a test come. And this has been a major test for me, a major test that's wrapping up an entire section of my life. And I'm passing the test, and it's been sloppy, but like at the end of the day, I'm passing the test. And for me, when I'm working on myself, and then you get the opportunity for a quiz to come up or a test to come up, and you see how you react in the moment versus how you would have reacted before, that's the one for me, one of the most rewarding things, because it's like you're seeing real time, this scenario just happened, and the old version of me would have done this. The new version of me has a different perspective, and even though I might still have the same emotions and everything, I'm going to choose this way instead. And that's where like the self-development comes in, and that's where the difference in your life happens, and that's where nothing changes until you do. So when you can see yourself making changes and showing up differently real time in the moment, that's extremely rewarding for me. And now I've got momentum because I'm seeing myself show up differently, and now I'm having a different experience. So then I believe in it even more, and I'm going to double down on it even more, and then you have momentum, and you just keep doing that and doing that.
So good. I want to ask you if you would speak about this idea, because I think that this happens, that we call things into our life, that we believe that we will only allow into our lives what we believe we deserve or are worthy of, right? So what I have noticed throughout my life, that the more I evolve, the more I love me, the more connected I am to God and my higher self, right? What ends up happening is I will call more of this, the type of people who were doing that, and other people just fly out like a centrifuge. Like, they're like, wow, everybody's just like disappearing who doesn't align. But this is the thing I want to ask you, because I've noticed this. I've been observing. I love to observe myself and zoom out. So I noticed that. So now you'll have all these like wonderful, great things come, but it'll have one aspect that's not what you want. And most people just be like, oh, I can have everything, right? But I believe that then I would hone in on that one part. It could be a person, let's say, they have all these qualities, but this one thing they don't have. And then I would say to myself, Allison, what is it about that one quality, the quality that you want? How come you're not calling that in, or whatever it is? Like when we see these patterns, right, in our lives, repeat or come back, right? So then it would be like a part of that thing. I don't know if this makes sense. A part of the person, or a part of, let's say, a business deal, the one little aspect, right?
Okay.
So how do I have to grow? What is it about that part that I really want that I don't feel worthy enough of? Do you know what I'm talking about? And it's like almost like advancing your manifestations to like a higher level the farther you get. Do you know what I mean by what I'm saying? Or does it sound weird?
No, it doesn't. So basically, like, you think you know what you want, but you partially get it.
Yeah, well, you know what you want, but then the evidence always is the 3D reality that's coming to you, that lets you know what you really are thinking, feeling, and believing and calling to you, right? So that it's a great measure. It's like, oh, this is my snapshot. Oh, thank you for letting me know so what's happening inside, right? It's like it's a message.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So a couple of things you said. One, I want to go back to something you said because
Okay.
it's really important. You mentioned when you start working on yourself and changing, that people just like start dropping.
Yeah, they do.
Well, and here's the thing. One of my coaches, she told me this. She said, Michael, as you raise your vibration and your frequency, subconsciously and energetically, those who are in relationship with you or around you, they're going to be required to raise theirs as well to meet you. Let's say you're starting here and someone else is starting here. For those people watching, you're starting where your starting point is where it is, and theirs is where there is from an energetic frequency. If you raise yourself, say 3 levels of energetic frequency,
Yeah.
the people in relationship with you subconsciously and energetically are going to, at a minimum, have to raise their level at least 3 clicks to stay with you, or they're not going to. So the people, as you change, people are going to have to change their frequency is also going to have to adjust to keep up with yours. Otherwise, they're just going to fall off, like you said. And you'll see that happen, or you'll start to see resistance. And that's when people say, oh, you think you're too good now, or oh, you're better, oh, you don't have time for me anymore, or you this or that. And that's why friends and family, I think, is one of the most it's one of the most, it's I think people greatly discount how important your friends and family are because of this very thing we're talking about. And those, your friends and your family are the people that you spend your time with. So that's the average of the 5 that you hang out with, or it's the environment that you're in. And they're either going to be supportive and an asset, or they're not going to be supportive and they're going to become a liability, like I talked about earlier. So as you're raising your frequency, you got to understand that not everybody else has volunteered and wants, they might not even want to raise theirs. So when that happens, either they're going to be in alignment with you and they're going to increase their frequency. And this is all subconsciously happening too. Most of them aren't going to be conscious of it. So that's going to happen. Either they're going to move with you, or they're not going to move with you and they're going to fall off on their own, which is fine too. Or the third one, and that's where there's going to be resistance to it. And that's where conflict's going to come into the relationship. And that's where you're going to hear you're too good, or you're changing, or this, or you're that. And in those moments, that's when you're going to have to make the decision of asset and liability. And it doesn't mean you have to be ruthless and cut them out, but you can have a conversation with them. Hey, like, I'm working on myself. You're right. I am different now. You're right. I am shifting. You're right. I am not doing the old stuff. I don't want to be the old version of me. I'm trying to grow and get better. So you've been my best friend since 6th grade, bro. I love you, man. Or you're my brother, or you're my aunt, or you're my spouse, whatever it is. Like, this is me trying to get better. So are you know, like, I need you to support me in this. And if you're not going to support me in it, and that's okay, still love you, but we're going to have to take a break now. And just remove yourself from it. That's super critical, because it's going to happen. I promise you, if you're doing any sort of self-development, that means you're going to change, and people don't like change. So when you start changing, there's another thing that happens too, is when people start seeing you become successful, or you become happy, or you losing weight, or you moving in a direction towards your goals, and they know that they're not, it shines a light on what they're not doing.
100%.
And then they're going to have restrictions, and uncomfort will come up, and they're either going to lean into that, they're going to do something about it, or they're likely going to talk shit your way and say, oh, you're this or you're that. And they're going to project their lack of not doing anything onto you for actually trying to do better. So you really need to monitor that, but also understand that when that happens, it's a good thing. Take that as a good sign, because that means you're changing and you're moving. So don't take that as a bad thing. And again, it comes down to perspective. So when you have that happen with family and friends, that should actually be like, oh, I'm doing something right. Or like when you're doing social media, they talk about the haters. If you're not getting any sort of negative feedback, that means people aren't seeing you. You're not doing anything right. You're not growing. You're not expanding. You're not being out there. And then you're not for everyone. You're never going to be. So focus on your 40% that love you and what you're about and are going to be your tribe, and worry about them. Who cares about the other 50 to 60 that don't vibe with you? So I think that's really, really important, because it's going to happen, especially when you start shifting. And then into the question you were asking, where like, I have this thing, so it's on my whiteboard, but this is kind of my philosophy that I've been working on in life. So you can set your intention and be intentional, right? So this is my intention. These are my goals. This is what I intend to do. And then the next step to that is showing up and doing your part. So this is what I want to do. This is my intention. These are the actions, and this is the showing up, and this is me doing the work and me doing my part that's in alignment with the intention. So you've set the intention, said what you want, you're doing the work, doing your part, and that's cool. Well, there's 2 pieces on the back end of that. And the biggest one is staying open and then allowing it to happen. So what you're talking about, for me, in my experience, if I understand your question, this is what I've really struggled with. We say we want this, but the thing is we become attached to how we think that looks. Mm-hmm. So if you're dead set on, and it's not the thing that you want either, whatever the goal is, or whatever the thing it is, the trait that you think you want, that's not actually what you're looking for. What you're looking for is how you think that thing is going to make you feel.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So if I know I want to make, $1 million this year, it's because of all of the things that making $1 million is going to make me feel. I'm going to feel safe. I'm going to feel successful. I'm going to feel significant. I'm going to feel accomplished. I'm going to feel maybe proud of myself. So it's not the money that I want. It's the feelings that thing is going to give me. So when you're asking for these things and setting intentions, like you're talking about, you want the one thing, but maybe it comes in and it looks a little different. If you can stay open to how it looks, a lot of times what we think we want, we're on the right track of it, but maybe it shows up differently. And I think that's where we miss out, because like what we actually want is here, but it just doesn't look the way that we thought it would. And if we're not open, we're going to miss it. You're literally going to miss the opportunity. You're going to miss the very thing that you want. And then you also have to allow it to happen too. So staying open and allowing, and that's something that's been really hard for me, because I've had this limiting, well, I'll get super open with you. So I've had this limiting belief that it's not going to work out for me. You know, I can follow this blueprint. I can follow this proven plan that's going to work, and it works for everyone else, but it's not going to work for me. I've always had this, like, always thought that I could be good. I know I'm good and I know I can be good, but can I be great? Or is it going to work out for me? Or if I do this stuff, if I invest in it, I do all the things, I expected it to not work out, which sounds crazy, right? And going back to the thoughts and the programs and all this stuff, and when I was working with my life coach a little over a year ago, it dawned on me that the reason I don't expect things to work out, I'm short, I'm 5'6", and all through growing up, junior high and high school, all my buddies were getting their growth spurts, and there was a few of us that stayed short, and then junior year, senior year, they all shot up, hit 6 foot. Never happened for me. And subconsciously, I came up with based on that happening, I attached a meaning to that things don't work out for me. Yep. So then I take that all the way into life and business, and I don't expect things to work out for me. And I would have never, ever thought that, but because I had a life coach and I'm looking at all these limiting thoughts and beliefs and the patterns that I have, and why do I think the things that I think, and why do I believe what I believe, I was able to go back to that root and see that. And I'm like, that's crazy. So then I actually look at my life and I do like a cross reference, and it's like, dude, things work out for you, bro. Like you know, you made $1 million when you're 32 years old. Like you have a beautiful house, a beautiful wife, you have an awesome family, you have all these relationships, all these things are working out wonderfully for you, but you think things don't work out for you. So then I get in my own way because I'm not staying open. And then more importantly than that, I'm not allowing it to happen. Yeah. So you can sit and say you want what you want, all you want, and you can sit and do the work for it. But if you don't allow it to come to you, and you don't think that you're deserving of it, or you're not open to how it looks, then you do all of the work and then you just don't, you get in the way. And that was shown to me one time. I was on a walk and I had this whole like storyline play out, because I was working on this, like, why, like, why does shit not work out for me? And then I had this whole story play out in my head. It's like, I'm going to the grocery store and I make a list. Okay. So I'm being proactive. I'm making a list. I'm getting prepared. Right. And then I go to the grocery store. I got my list and I navigate my way through the store super efficiently. I start on the right side. I hit aisle to aisle. I get what I need as I need going through. And then as I'm looking at the stuff on the shelf, I'm trying to make the best decision on what's the best value of the product versus the price. So I show up prepared. I go through the store super efficiently. I'm making the best value-based decisions. I get up to the checkout stand. Maybe I try and negotiate a little bit. Maybe I got a coupon or whatever. So I've shown up prepared, done all the work, went and did it, paid the price for it. And I put the stuff in my grocery cart. And then I go out to the parking lot and I get in my truck and leave. And I didn't load up any of the shit that I just earned. I just earned it. I did the work, I paid for it, I did the thing, and I leave the stuff in the cart. And I'm like, that's what I'm doing in my life. I'm doing all of the work. I'm being prepared. I'm showing up. And then I'm not taking what's mine. I'm not accepting what's mine. I'm not loading the stuff that I just earned in the truck and going home. I'm leaving it in the parking lot. And that was huge for me, because I realized I'm not allowing the things to show up and work out. And when I started like working through that, things started working out better. I had less problems. I had less things happening, and I just got out of my own way. And then I added to being open to what it looks like, because, you know, there's things that we want, but you know, a lot of times it doesn't look the way that we think it's going to, or you start down a path and you have in your mind like, oh yeah, it's going to look this way and blah blah blah, and then reality happens and you have problems and you have challenges and all these different things. But if you look at it as a journey and you're being guided along your way, and you don't lose sight of that central concept, and you don't lose sight of the thing that you're truly wanting to feel, I think that's how you get there.
I have so many piggybacks on you. I want to like jump on so many, like there's like 5 directions. I feel like my brain is going to fry but I'm going to try really hard because I have to say a few things to you. One of the things, I can't believe how aligned we are, because I'm freaking out because when you're describing this whole thing, like, oh, things don't work out for me. I have this whole thing I wrote it in my book. It's about, I'm the girl, I do all the work, I get right up to the edge, I do everything that's important to create this thing, and I believe I can have it, all of that thing, but I'm the girl who doesn't get the princess bedroom. I'm the girl, you know, because I didn't, you know, when I was growing up, I was neglected, but I'm not going to, this isn't about me. But my point is, it's right in alignment with what you're saying. So it's like, and discovering that and understanding that, you know, all that effort or the drive or whatever it is, doing everything the best way, the evidence of what's really happening is what shows up. Like, it's almost like if you take a snapshot of every area of your life, finances, relationships, you know, socially, emotionally, fun, like all of that, and you just look, you know, what's in there? What are the patterns? It communicates back as a gift to us to tell us the areas to tweak internally, right? And then almost like, and Abraham Hicks says that the bad experiences, let's say, you know, whatever your hard money lender fudgers, right? Now you have them, right? So you look at them, and that's the rocket ship. That's a contrast. So that's the rocket ship. She says that these accumulate, that these you launch into the vortex of, you know, how come I can't think of it? The frequencies of what you really, really want energetically, because that's the contrast is the information that gives you more of the drive toward the thing that you want, right? And creates more inside of you. Because I used to think, oh my God, like those bad things are the thing. Oh my God, I did it again, or whatever the hell it is, right? And okay, so that right there, I feel like what you're doing, there's this other thing that Abraham Hicks says. I think it's her that says it. I love this. You're going to love this. You're going to be doing the backstroke in this thing. You probably heard it. She says, there's a stream of well-being that flows. You can resist it or you can allow it. It flows nonetheless. I walk around saying that all the time. Like, you know, there's a stream of well-being that flows. I can resist it or I can allow it. It flows nonetheless. Like, it's always there.
Well,
So
and
like
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, a couple of things. So first and foremost, when you believe, like you believe that you're not going to get the princess bedroom, right? And I believe that things aren't going to work out for me. There's a point in time where you decided and made the decision that this is true for me, and I believe it. So until you let go of that, you're not, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. But the other thing, I love the whole flow thing. And I got this in a ceremony I was doing one time looking at it, but with that well-being of flow, or just any flow, the flow of life, it's our limiting beliefs and our thoughts and our restrictions and all of our trauma and just all of the stuff that's not in alignment with the flow. That's you trying to paddle upstream. That's you trying to row upstream, holding on to all of your stuff. Like, that's literally, if you look at it that way, it's like, yep, this flow of life and everything just, you know, purposely flowing the way that it does. If you get into the energy space, it's like, well, that limiting belief is now taking an oar and putting it out this way. And then you start doing all those things, and now you're not flowing. You're actually fighting against the flow itself with all of your stuff. And it's those things that are actually the very thing that's preventing you from just turning around and going with the flow. Exactly.
You know, it's funny because if we just, you know, if we allow, right, you know, that the identity, formed in 0 to 7 in the program that, things don't work out for me, whatever, and then for me, I don't get the princess bedroom, that identity right there. Because I tell people who work for me, I say, be the person who has the job that you want, and you'll have it. And my she was a receptionist who came to work for me. She runs my whole company. She runs everything. She just became it. She just was it. And, like visualizing, being it, feeling it, right? That whole experience.
I want to add to that.
Do it.
A lot of this I get from Ed Milet, and the masterminds and the coaching and just getting new pieces of information is really like, there's no shortcuts in life. But the only shortcuts that there are is mentors and guides and people who are going to coach you. That's really the only shortcut, because you're going to get all of their experience. So all the things that worked, all the things that didn't work, all the little tips and tricks and hacks, when you get a mentor or a coach, they can help you with all of that. So something that someone spent 20 years of their life learning, they can give to you in a short period of time, so you can skip all of that. I think that's the only true shortcut to anything. But you're talking about being the person, right? So whatever it is you want to do, you really need to like find an example of who that is, and then you want to emulate them. So this is what the person who is doing what I want to do, this is, who are they? Like, who is that person? And you need an example, or you need a blueprint or a role model. So find someone who's doing what you want to do, and then start looking at them. Like, what does that person do? How do they show up? How does that person act? When do they get up? What's their ritual? What are the things that are important? What are the core values that they operate off of? Like, how does that person act and conduct themselves? And once you are clear on that, then you just start showing up as that person every day. And Ed Milet calls it as, who do I have to become? So it's not about the thing that you think you want, or the accomplishment you're looking at. It's, who do I have to become that's capable of producing that outcome? Yeah. When we quit focusing on the thing itself that we want, and we start focusing on like, okay, what does a person who's capable of living that life or creating that, whatever it is, like, how does that person show up every day? And then you shift from, I want to make $1 million, to you shift into, okay, like, this is what it looks like, a person that does that. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to do the sales call, whatever it is, and then start becoming the person that it is. Who do I have to become who's capable of doing the thing? And for me, when I've shifted that, it's you're now in control. You have the choice to show up and make different decisions, and you have the choice to show up and become the person that you have to become, that's capable of doing or having or experiencing the thing that you want to.
So good. So good. The gold in this conversation is just, how many people you've probably helped today, right?
I hope so, because I, like, again,
you don't know that.
Well, I do, but the thing is I'm sharing everything that I'm learning.
Yeah.
And hopefully bettering other people's lives and giving them a new perspective. And my number one core value is lead by example. Yeah. So I'm just trying to take the things that I learn, and I'm trying to lead by example, and then hopefully people pick up on that. But the thing is I've spent a lot of time and emotions and energy and hardships and money and resources to pick up all these different lessons and stuff. And hopefully people, just like I've learned things from other people's hard lessons, so it was easier for me. Hopefully that this can provide a blueprint or an example, or just different perspectives and tips and tricks to really, because all at the end of the day, we all want to feel happy, and we want to feel loved and accepted, and we want to feel like we matter, and that we matter. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's what you're doing with your podcast. It's what all the gurus are doing, the ones that aren't trying to sell you the $997 course every other day. But there's so many people out there that are examples. And if you just plug into that environment and that frequency and get in touch with, it's not about the things, it's about who do I have to become to do that. That's when the world's going to change. That's when our culture is going to change. And that's actually when you're going to find happiness. And that's what I've slowly been figuring out on my own the hard way, because I like to do everything hard. So I'm working on unwinding that But that's
I
why I'm doing the podcast and you know, all the things. So I hope that people are getting value from it and really truly listening, because this is the stuff that matters. And when you start working on you and you start working on this stuff, your external view, the view that you see everything in the external world, is through the lens and the goggles that you're wearing. So when you change everything in, and everyone's heard this, but it's like, have you actually sat with it and thought about it? Like, when everything internally changes, everything externally as a
100%.
result is going to change on its own. So I for sure can tell you I've made more money the more that I work on me. I have better relationships the more that I work on me. I'm in better shape the more that I work on me. Like, half of this 40 pounds that I've lost, half of it was emotional weight. It was
Yeah.
emotional,
Yeah.
because I had
Love that.
insecurities with being short and fat and all these things. So I was holding on to those stories. So even though I'm going to the gym and I'm eating pretty good, I'm doing all the things, I wasn't allowing it and I wasn't being open. So once I've worked on myself, I literally released 20 pounds of emotional fat, which was insecurities and I'm not good enough and all the pain of being teased and all the different shit. So the more that you work on you and show up for you, I know for sure your external world's going to get better. And then that's where you're going to have these external experiences. They're going to give you these cool emotions and these different feelings that you're really going for. And that's where fulfillment and happiness and joy and love sits.
You know, that I love that term, emotional fat. That's really good, because we like specialize in eating disorders here too, and it's just, that's a great way to put it, because I just, and I know we have to wrap up. I want people to be able to find you and know everything about you. I just, of course, have to say my one little last thing I'm practicing, and it's, I mean, I don't want to call it magic, but it feels like magic, actually. And it's through a lot, you know, I think all those hardships, you're saying you do things a hard way. I think that you know, those hardships that you have had, I mean, I've had quite a few, you know, trauma and whatever, loss. And there's nothing, you know, there's nothing that makes you better than those things. Like, you can't replace them. It's the experience of them. You said something about whatever the experience is, whatever that you said, it was so good. The experience is the experience. You can't replace it.
Well, a lot of the things and lessons, if you look at your life, probably the majority of your true lessons that you learn are because you did something wrong, or it didn't go well, or it was a bad experience. It turns into the lesson.
The magic I wanted to tell you, Michael, is this, which you probably already know, but this is what I do. It's one of my practices, is that which, you know, we do anyhow, Arte, we visualize, but I feel into things. So I develop this, like, I create states of being. So like, I create a state of being that, and almost like, you know how children, they have like imaginary friends, they create all this imaginary life. And I started to just go back to being that wildly emotionally imaginative. And I think that when we can imagine in our emotions, that attaches us to the frequency of the thing. So it's like, and then you don't need the thing anymore. You're not in a state of lack. So if you imagine yourself and you experience the unbelievable feelings of being or having or doing whatever that is, like, I would visualize myself walking on my hands on the beach. Sounds silly, but it means you have to be very fit, and just feel the feelings of what that feels like. And then I just watch myself get more and more fit. You know, it's just like, so it's imaginative feelings, and they're powerful, because you don't want the thing anymore. You just love being with yourself, doing this stuff, right? It's funny. So, and it produces things.
Yeah. And you know, when you continue to raise your level of awareness and you have life experience and you choose to lean into all of that, I think you get to the place to where you can be more proactive in creating your reality, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
But
It just
here's
happens.
the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back to like things that are hard, and that's where we learn. I think that it has to be that way, because no one's going to wake up and choose to be put in a shitty situation that hurts. No
No.
one's ever going to choose that. Say, oh yeah, I want to have that. Maybe, maybe it's super enlightened people are like, hey, yeah, let's have that experience today. But you're never going to choose that. So if you're never going to choose that, but that type of situation or experience is a thing that's going to be required for you to grow and hit the next level of, raising your vibration and just living and experiencing a different life. These things have to happen because you're never going to choose them. So they have to happen. So if that's true, and these things have to happen for you to get the lessons that are going to serve you, then it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, which is Tony Robbins. But just to like lay that out for you, no one's ever going to choose that. And then what's cool is when you have these things happen and you don't quit and you keep going and you keep raising your level of awareness, you start to build the relationship with yourself, and then you get to the point to where you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, that's when you're where Allison can sit on her podcast and tell the world that she knows, because she trusts herself based on all of the stuff, that she can create the energy and the reality and the experiences that she wants to have because of everything that she's been through. But you now also trust yourself and you're connected and you believe that. And I think the only way to actually get there is to go through it. So again, the only way to have experience is to actually have experience.
Yeah.
When you get to where you trust yourself and you have these different tools, it's exactly what you just said. And that's literally where you call it magic or manifesting, or you're literally creating your own reality and you're speaking things into existence. And that's where we're all trying to get, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a kind of I loved that you said that, but it comes down to trusting yourself. And the only way you're going to do that is to like put yourself in situations where you have to trust yourself.
It's funny. My number one why, when I had to search, when I was doing whatever I was I think it was like to lose weight or something, but my number one why, digging like 7-10 layers deep. Why? What is my real reason for wanting anything? And it was because I wanted to develop a relationship with myself, that I trusted myself, because I didn't trust myself. Like, do I trust myself to follow through? Do I trust myself to, that I'm going to show up and be like, love myself the most? We're with ourselves all the time. It's so cliche, but best friend bitch here. Like, right?
Well, and I've shared with you everything I've been going through this last year and really looking at, why outside external things affect me so much, or why I rely on outside external things to get the feelings that I want. And when you trust yourself and you can show up for yourself, you no longer need outside third-party things to validate you in whatever way it is you want to feel or whatnot. And I was driving to my office this morning. I literally pulled over and I journaled 2 pages, and it's kind of in alignment with what we're talking about. But it's like, until you like when you're able to give yourself the things that you need, like love or trust or respect or proud of yourself or whatever it is, and really what we're talking about is the relationship you have with yourself. Yeah. When you get to that point and you don't rely or need to get those things from third party, that's where you can actually experience those things at the highest level and the most bliss, because you don't need it. Exactly. So then, because you don't need it from them, there's not an expectation there. You already have for yourself. So then you can just fully be in the moment and enjoy the thing, because it's not, there's no scarcity, or there's no like, I need them to give this for me, because you can produce it for yourself. And I think that's maybe the beginning of, happiness or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it.
Think about it. Then when you have it already, then everybody wants to give it to you.
And that's crazy.
It's already, right?
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. It's like when you kind of, and it doesn't make sense, but it's like then when it doesn't really matter, or it's easy, it's like it just comes. It
doesn't make sense in the 3D world that we live in. That's all matter. That's all slowed down energy that has no real reality based in it.
Yeah, because logically you have to do step A, B, C, and then you get the thing. So it doesn't make sense that like you could go basically through the back door to arrive at the very thing that you want.
Because our thoughts move faster than the speed of light, so they can attach to the frequency necessary immediately. right? And you know, I mean, we're in such an illusion here. I mean, that matter is more important, you know, everything is matter. It's more
Yeah.
important than wave, right?
But
So
until you clear out all of the stuff that's in your life
oh,
now, and you get it out, you're not going to be open to that. So you can't get there until you go through the process of, like I said at the beginning, like, where am I really? Where am I really? And what is my current situation, environment, and belief structure and all this stuff? Like, where am I for real? And then you can acknowledge and look at what you like and what you don't like. And then you start the process of eliminating, what's an asset in alignment with it and what's not. And you start the process
yeah.
of getting rid of the stuff that doesn't support that. So now you're clearing all this stuff out, and now you have space for open and pause. You're open, and you have space for things to come in. Because even if you have all of the awesome things coming in and you have all this amazing stuff coming in, if you're holding on to all your junk and all your crap, you're not gonna have the space anyway. So you're just gonna have this mixed bag of just all sorts of stuff going on, and that's gonna be even worse and more confusing. And for me, as I have gone down this self-development spiritual journey, that's part of the deal too. Is there's gonna be highs and lows, there's gonna be good and bad, there's gonna be, I've got the hardest of hard and the worst of worst, and just the pain of pain going on. But simultaneously, as I've been doing all this stuff, I also have like the best. So I have like the two polar opposites
Love
existing
that.
simultaneously in my life at the same time. And I think to a certain degree, we have to have that for perspective and
Yeah.
appreciation. But until you get rid of all of your, and not all of them, but until you start the process of releasing the limiting beliefs and releasing your current belief structure and all of this stuff, you don't have this space, and you're not open, and you don't even have the room to have the things that you say you want. So even if the stuff that you wanted came to you, you wouldn't be in the space to actually know that it was there, because you're so caught up in everything that you've been doing.
Might
So
not
the
even
only
see it,
change. Yeah.
right? Or you get rid of it, right? I've spent so much of my life living with my crap. It's just, I'm so, it's like, but it's actually such an exciting journey, isn't it? Like, it's so exciting. I guess when you gain momentum, when you're in it, I really, like I've said to, even just like younger people, if you don't have the experience of overcoming something, like, but you're in the middle of something really hard, you don't know that it can turn out well, and you don't know how much you're going to learn from it. And it's like repeated exposure really helps you to really trust that this process actually is going to give you something, right?
And that's why I think having some sort of win, or being able to actually see it, moves the needle so much.
Yeah.
So when I was telling you, I'm working on stuff, and when I realize in the moment, real time, of like, hey, I just made a decision differently than I would have every other time in my life. And you can see that happen real time, and you can actually see, because I said we're working on ourselves, but you don't really know where you're at or how well you're doing until a test pops up or a
Yeah.
quiz pops up. So you have a situation happening, you choose something differently, and then you're able to see that, acknowledge that, and you can tie it to like all the work that you've been doing. Now you have tangible proof that it's real. And for me, that creates momentum, and it's going to make me want to go even harder on it. So for example, with my working out, my trainer, once a week, I have to take pictures of the front, the side, and the back. And you see yourself in the mirror every day, so you don't see the changes. But when you look at, and even week 1 to week 2, you don't really see stuff. But when you look at, like, okay, 30 days ago, there was this picture at the beginning of the month, and now I have these other 2 photos. Yeah, like little difference. But then you see something a month later, and you can physically, tangibly see the difference, and
Yeah.
you can see the
Love
results. I
that.
think it's really important to focus on small
Yeah.
wins and to see the result, because what's going to happen is now you're having belief, and now you're buying in. You're going to have more buy-in, because now
Love
you
that.
actually saw that it's working, and that's going to create momentum, which, if what you're doing is in alignment with what you say you're going to be doing, that should make you extremely excited and make you want to double down even more. And now you have the belief, but not only do you have the belief, you've seen the result. So now you're going to start expecting the result, because you know it works. And that applies to whether it's losing weight or doing the spiritual self-development stuff like we talked about. So it's really important to acknowledge and see when you are having progress and something in it, and lean into that, and really stand, like really cling on to that, because that's the thing that's going to keep you moving forward. Because outside of that short acknowledgement in the moment of seeing the result, it's fucking hard. It's hard, and it's different, and it's change, and it's pain, and it's uncomfortable, and it's all of these things. So when you see that reward of like, hey, this is working, you really need to double down on that and take some time to be with that, because that's, for me, is the proof that I need. And then you can just, you're sold on it. You know, it's true.
So good. Yes. You know, that's like the first, you know, you're building a mountain, that first little teaspoon of dirt is just as powerful as the one, you know, one on the bottom is just as powerful as the one on the top. It's just, I really believe that that is where the gold is. That's where those little incremental micro moves are everything. We just,
You just got to stay consistent long enough to see that first result, and then you have momentum, and you can keep going. But there's another thing too, is it's real easy to, once you have momentum and you're seeing results and stuff, it's real easy to get comfortable and to let off what got you where you're actually at. And I'll use weight loss, for example. Like when I'm looking better now, I still have to stay diligent with staying on top of it, because it's really easy to go back to wanting to have a Five Guys cheeseburger for lunch today, instead of getting, you know, egg whites with turkey sausage and sweet potatoes instead at the restaurant. So, you know, that's another thing too, is like, just because it's you're where you're at and you're comfortable with where you're at, you can't stay there, and you can't stay comfortable, because that's where you open the door to go back to old habits and be like, oh cool, I'm where I want to be now, and I've been doing all this hard stuff, I'm where I want to be now. So then you relax a little bit, and then you're going to step back and you'll see yourself regress. So I think it's super important to always be tracking, and again, like I said at the beginning, where am I now, where am I today, and always be aware of that, so you can make sure that you're constantly moving forward.
And like anything, like whatever we have now is a result of what we did 3 months ago up until now, right? It's like, so now I think I'll have a hot fudge sundae, and then I'll have one tomorrow, and then in 3 months, right? I mean,
well, and you probably heard that on the call with Ed from Arte. But what's interesting is he'll tell us like, hey, the life you're living today is a result of what you did 90 days ago.
100%. Yeah.
But then he followed up with, and he said that is on the bad. So bad results show up fast, 2 months, 3 months, 90 days. He said it's likely that to have that same approach, but looking at like the positive and things that are good and growing and really developing, he's like, that's more like a 6, 12, 18, 24 month period. So it's like, you know, it's real easy to put on weight and it's hard to lose it, right? You can lose 10 pounds and it take you 6 months, and you can put that same 10 pounds back on in a month. Right. So, you know, with the positive, and it's the same thing with like thoughts, you know, like the power of a negative thought versus the power of positive thoughts. And it's the negative, everything with negative moves and happens much quicker than it does with positive and whatever, change, growth, however you want to say that. But I wanted to add
good. We're just like, this is like 2 podcasts, for God's sakes.
I'm thrilled and I'm grateful to be in a position where people like my results and my leadership enough to care, have to say, to ask me to be on their podcast. So it's an honor.
I'm so honored. And I think you've given so much. Like, I feel like there's like, people have to take notes of everything that you shared, you know, to really, and there's so much life in this conversation that somebody could take 5 minutes of this conversation and make a major transformation. So it's something that, you know, I just want to thank you so much for that. And what is the deal with me that I keep thinking of another thing I want to say, like, oh, another thing. And then you're like, oh, I have another thing. My pastor would say, I have to say it because it's in my mind, it's driving me crazy. He would say, he was a friend a long time ago, and he would say, things that come from bad or evil, you know, they feel good in the beginning, and they're easy in the beginning, and they get harder and harder as time goes on. And things that are really good are hard in the beginning and get easier and easier as time goes on. And it's like, I feel like the more we do this work and the momentum and the closer we get with ourselves, I mean, it's never over. We're always growing. We could, unless we just choose not to grow, but as long as we're always growing. But I feel like it's almost like the time in between, the corrections, the pivots from negative to positive, it becomes shorter over time. Like you gain momentum, right? So I feel like it's worth it. Like it's worth the time, the consistency, day in and day out. And the shitty days too. There's days where I'm like, the entire world is a bad place. And you know what I mean? That happens.
I was there last week.
You were there, right?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And again, I think it's consistency over time.
Yep.
Compounded effect. They say the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. There's a great book out there called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It's one of my favorite books. But for everybody listening, and for you and for me too, 5 years is going to go by, and 10 years is going to go by, unless you die. Then however much of that time is going to go by. But the reality that you live in today, and in a year from now, and in 5 years, and in from 10 years, whatever you're going to experience then is going to be the combination of all the choices that you make between now and then. So time's going to go by regardless. So you might as well make the choices that your future self's going to appreciate you for, because it's going to take time. It's not going to be right now. That's just not how it works. Because if it was easy, then everybody would have it. And it's designed to be difficult, and it's designed to be uncomfortable, and it's designed to have these challenging times, because without that, you can't get the lesson and get to the other side. You can't just say, I'm going to choose to be resilient. A baby doesn't just wake up and say, I'm going to be as resilient as Michael Burnz at 35 years old is. It's not going to happen, because there's there's consistency over time. So that's one thing that and a year is going to go by. It's going to go by. So don't be hidden there in the same place a year from now, talking about the same things. And if you start slowly making these different decisions, and that's why everything about me is lifestyle. The podcast is Build a Lifestyle lending, lifestyle realty. It's all around lifestyle. And one other thing that's really important that I want to add, and then we can wrap it up if you want, but especially for the entrepreneurs, and especially for the people who are very money driven and success driven, the capitalists out there. And I'm just going to say, from my experience, everything was about money, making money, right? First it was make 100 grand, then 200 grand, then 250, then 300, then $500,000, then 750. And you keep doing it. And we tell ourselves and for whatever reason, everything, I think most of it for most people is around money, because money is probably the biggest limiting thing in all of our lives that we tell ourselves is preventing us from having and doing and experiencing whatever it is we want. Money is usually the entry ticket, like usually the admission, cost of admission to experience the thing you want. And it's really, really easy to forget about these other areas. So in lifestyle, for me, you've got money, you've got family, relationships, health and fitness, your spiritual and self-development, and then experience or fun or hobbies or what's bringing you joy. So you've got these 6 things that you have to some capacity to have fulfillment. So I was just money, 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 right? When I have the money, then I'll be happy. When I have the money, then I'll be able to do all these other things. Well, there was a month where I netted $200,000 in a month, and my wife at the time hadn't been home for like 10 days. So here I am, making 200 grand in a month, not a year, a month. If you would have told me that, before, I would have thought I was on top of the world, had everything figured out. I'd be so happy. I got the money figured out and everything would be awesome. And it wasn't. I was miserable. My wife hadn't been home. I was 40 pounds overweight, probably 30 pounds overweight at the time. I was spiritually broken. I was stressed out. I was addicted to chaos and stress and anxiety. I was addicted to it because my sense of self-worth is based on my production. So if I'm busy and I'm stressed out and I have chaos going on everywhere, then that means that I have a lot going on, which boils all the way down to I'm significant. So that was the thing very eye-opening to me when I had all the money. I had it, and everything else was not good because I had neglected it. So when you're so focused on just one thing, and it doesn't have to be money, but I would say that's probably the one thing that most people are tied to. It's like, once I have that, then I can focus on all of these other things, because everything is going to be great. I'm going to have this one thing figured out. Well, when you get that one thing, then you're going to realize like you're still not happy. So now it's going to be about making 300 grand in a month or whatever it is, or it's going to be about the next thing, the nicer car, the bigger house, the better watch, the flying first class instead of Delta Comfort, whatever it is. You're always going to be looking at the next thing and failing to realize that you're still going to not be happy because you have these other areas of your life that aren't together. So if you're spiritually broken, or you're mentally broken, or you're overweight, but you have money, it doesn't matter. Let's say you have an awesome relationship and you have 6-pack abs, you're magazine ready and all this stuff, but you're broke and you're not making any money. Like you're not going to be happy either. So it's not about just the one thing. And that's really the whole foundation of this lifestyle, is like, how do I set up my life and be focused on the priorities that matter? So I say, keep your priorities. The only way to keep a priority is to make sure it's a priority. And that's how you build this lifestyle system to where you're not just making money, but you also feel good and you're in shape. And the more that you feel good and you look good, well, then your energy is going to be better, which is going to make you show up better in your relationships, going to make you a better partner, a better friend, dad, brother. And then if you're doing all of that, you're probably going to be a better business partner, and you're in good energy. Like now money is going to show up. So don't get singularly focused. That's the one thing that I did that really cost me a lot. I thought I was winning and I thought I was on top of the world because there was one thing. But when you don't have it, you don't have money, you think that when you have money, everything's going to be okay. Or like if you don't have the relationship that you want, you think that when you have the relationship, then you're going to feel loved and fulfilled and happy and all this stuff. But really, it's just an external thing that you're relying on to give you a short-term dopamine hit to make you feel the way you think you want to feel. So when you can shift all of that around and focus on it, I think that's what everybody's really, truly trying to chase.
Yeah.
So get singularly focused on the money part.
Yeah, that's awesome. Michael, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being here.
Absolutely.
It's just such a pleasure. It's insightful. It's, intellectually stimulating. The whole thing is fantastic. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing, your heart, your vulnerability, your knowledge, your experience. You have so much to offer, even in the hardest time of your life, right? You probably have the most, right, to offer.
I appreciate that. The nice words and the compliment, and I'll
true.
Thank you. And hopefully it brought some value. And if there's I'm here to be a resource, and I just like to think I'm on team do good. So,
you are. So tell us, you already mentioned it and it's all going to be in the show notes and everything, but where's the best way? What is the thing that you would want people to know the most about you, where they could find you? What's the best way?
Well, if you like anything of what I talked about today, which is all the different lifestyle stuff, whether, it's the business and the money piece, self-development, the spiritual stuff, whatever it might be, I'm always talking about that and trying to put valuable content out there. So I've got the podcast, which is on all platforms and YouTube, Build a Lifestyle Podcast. And then I'm really active on Instagram at michael.burnz with a Z, Burnz. And then Facebook, Mr. Michael Burnz. Like I said, this is a spiritual thing for me. And I've been blessed with being brought up in a good environment, like I talked about. And I've really, I was just shown self-development at a young age, and I've gone all in on that. And there's so much that I've learned, and there's been so many mentors and people have taken me under their wing and have made an impact and a difference in my life in a big way. So I'm trying to be the dude that the younger version of me was looking for and looking to. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and putting out all the social media and doing the speaking and everything, because people need an example, and they need a new point of reference, and people need to see something and believe something, that they don't have to be stuck in the life that they're living, whatever that looks like. And if you don't want to make $1 million or whatever, that's cool. But you don't have to be stuck where you're at unless you're choosing to be there. So that's my message and kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And if you vibe with that, I'm putting all that information out there. And I'm going to different events, and as a result, I meet wonderful people like you. You're on the other side of the country from where I'm at. Here we're doing this thing together. So the more that you just get clear on who it is you are and what you want, and you lean into that and stay loyal to that truth, God and the universe will take care of the rest, and things will just start getting better.
It's so true. So vibe with hope with Michael Burnz, Mr. Michael Burnz. You are a man of hope. So people, like, share, give him 5-star reviews, subscribe. And if you have anything rotten to say, don't bother. I'm just kidding. I say that all the time. If you're a hater, keep walking. Swipe left. All right. So, Michael, bless you. It's a wrap. Love you, people.